T 89号阮存范，获得组别冠军的车手是16号来自 Absolute Racing 胡博。接下来。
Hello and welcome to Shanghai International Circuit for the return into China of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Series for 2023. This is the 5th round of the season. We started all the way back in May in Malaysia. We went on to Japan, of course, South Korea. We're here in China for this weekend for Shanghai. And what a great return this will be. And of course, the last round of the season will come at Vallelunga in Italy across mid-November, where we will settle not only the world final, of course, but the final 2 races of the 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Series. Qualifying earlier today, that was a spirited session. And for this race, we will see the young Kiwi Marco Giltrip line up on pole position. Of course, he shares with the man who won the 2019 championship as the pro winner, and that was his co-driver, Chris Vanderdrift. The pair of them were crowned the Pro Series champions for 2023 last time out, after what was their 6th win out of 8 races. And they really did seal that deal. They have been the standout performers. Of course, Chris Vanderdrift is a bit of an institution in this part of the world. The New Zealand driver, done a lot of one-make GT racing, of course, experience in open wheelers, karts, all those sorts of things, but very much a specialist in one-make GT competition. And he has wrapped up back-to-back Pro Series titles, so he's very happy about that. Has been winning in other marques over the last couple of weeks. So he will be well and truly fired up for this one. But from what my information tells me, it was Marco Giltrap this morning who set pole position with a stunning lap, a 2:06.38, to claim the top spot from Dan Wells, who is also very, very experienced around this particular circuit. Of course, Shanghai International Circuit, the home of the Chinese Formula One Grand Prix, will be back here for the 2024 Chinese F1 Grand Prix. It's been a bit of a sabbatical thanks to the global pandemic. 21st of April next year, we'll see a return to what has been a fantastic addition to Asia. Certainly another Herman Tilke built circuit. There are a number of them. We've been at Sepang in Malaysia, where we started this championship back on the 6th and 7th of May. And then, of course, off to the Bend Motorsport Park in South Australia. It's actually about 100 kilometres from Adelaide. And that was the 9th and 11th of June. We went to Fuji in Japan in mid-July. And just 4 weeks ago, on the 18th and 20th of August, we were, 3 weeks ago as it was, we were at Injae Speedium in South Korea for what was a deciding event for the 2 New Zealand drivers that will start the number 84 Absolute Racing Giltrap Group and Lamborghini Auckland entry from pole position in this race. Interesting contrast to circuits. It was 22 turns, 3.9 kilometres for Injae Speedium. We come to a full F1 specification circuit, and all 5.451 kilometres and 16 turns, 15 turns, depends on how you judge the turn 15, as whether it's a kink out of the hairpin turn 14 at the end of the long back straight, or whether you judge that a corner. 16 turns certainly makes up Shanghai International Circuit. First opened all the way back in June 2004. We've got a lap record for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia set back in September 2018. Mikko Eskelinen at 2:06.333. And to show you just how close they got to that, of course, that was the previous generation of the Huracan Super Trofeo. And the Evo 2 that is campaigned by all the drivers in this field set a 2:06.383. There's 5/100ths of a second shy of the lap record. Now, that was in Q1. In Q2, it was Chris van der Drift who jumped behind the wheel, 2:06.468. Now, you look at those two drivers, and Marco Giltrap is a very young man. He's only in the formative years of his career. And what better mentor to have than Chris van der Drift? And the two of them to be separated by just 1/10 of a second between the two qualifying sessions is very, very impressive. So if we go through the grid, Marco Giltrap starts from position number 1 in the number 84 Absolute Racing entry. Alongside him, Dan Wells, driver who alongside Oscar Lee has done so well and been so strong in Pro-Am this season. Yu Wei in the number 4 AM entry for R&B Racing will start from position 3. Alongside him, Jackson Walls, the young Australian driver who shares the Objective Racing number 11 entry, the Pro-Am entry with his father, Tony. They will start from the outside of row number 2. And it is Passaret Promsombat in the star performance by Absolute, the Thai driver, the second of the AM entries. Car number 19 will start from position 5. Then it's the popular SQDA Grit Motorsport entry of Brian Lee and John Kwan. Brian will start that entry, the number 63 blue and purple entry from position number 6. Then Mark Darwin, who's been doing a sterling job in the Iron Lynx entry, the all-orange entry with the big leisurely Garfield on the side of the car. That is car number 4 in the AM entry, and he will start from position number 7. For Vortex Racecraft, Benjamin Rouget, who's been in and out of the championship alongside Hao Wen Liu during this season, he will start the number 7 Racecraft entry, of course Pro-Am, third in that category, and row number 4 start for them. Kaheng Say in the D1 Racing Team entry, and also a Pro-Am, the number 28 entry that he shares with David Lau, another entry that have been in and out of this championship this year. They are back in action for D1 Racing Team, starting from position 9. Position number 10, the TRT Racing entry, Li Chung, sharing with the exciting young driver Jonathan Chicotto for TRT Racing. Of course, they were very, very impressive during their efforts last time out in South Korea, but certainly we saw a very impressive performance from Jonathan Chicotto at the Bend Motorsport Park during round 2 of the championship back in South Australia. Teams getting ready to take off for their sighting lap to prepare for a start behind the Eurus safety car. Position number 11 for Harmony Racing, Shengwei Zhu, who is back in the championship. He's been in and out a number of times during the course of this season. David Chen alongside him. They were very impressive during the opening round in Malaysia. David Chen setting pole for race 2 of the championship. Henry Kay and Eric Kay. Eric Kay will start the driver, the brothers from Hong Kong in the Triple Ace Racing number 91 entry, also on row 6 starting from position number 12. Left to screen here as we see the cars on screen leading the field away. Marco Giltrap in that black and red. It's got a silver fern down the side, distinctive for the New Zealand-based team. Of course, Giltrap Group and Lamborghini Auckland. The bright orange car there, of course, Mark Darwin, the number 33 Iron Lynx entry we were talking about, will start from position number 7. So back to position number 13. There's Yulong Kang and Ray Liu in the TRT Racing entry. Kang will start the entry, number 18 entry AM class, alongside another AM class entry, Johnson Huang for BC Racing, the number 51 entry. Iron Lynx entry for Lamborghini Cup, Kumar Prabhakaran, who has been very impressive, will start for the 9th race of the season from position number 15 and first in Lamborghini Cup. Alongside him, Dr. Ma, who was very impressive in South Korea, driving alone after sharing with Keith Vong from South Australia. Of course, Macanese driver, but based now in Australia. They had a very strong run during their time at the Bend Motorsport Park, were very impressive in Fuji. Wound up with the top honours in one of those 2 races, and unfortunately Keith unwell. We wish him the best, as he will no doubt be watching Dr. Ma's performance as they get through the circuit down at turn 6, coming through 7 and 8. Back to position number 17, and it's the HZO Fortis Racing Team entry of brothers Harry O and Hazik O. And alongside them in position number 18, Gabriel Moroni, who has been in the category in the past, making a return for Orion Endurance in Lamborghini Cup. And bringing up rear of field is the man who had gotten himself to the top of the championship points prior to us getting to South Korea, of course, for Siam Gas course. That is Super Chai, the Thai driver, making up the 19 entries for this race. Yellow, black and red car on screen. Lee Chung is the entry he shares with Jonathan Chicotto. This is the 9th race of the season. It's been a fantastic season so far. We will get into who is where in the championship points as this race unfolds. They've just come out of the Parabolica. Not officially termed the Parabolica, but it's the way certainly those people in Asia that are aware of Shanghai International Circuit refer to the corner fondly. There's a throw to the mighty Parabolica at Monza Circuit in Italy, and they're on that long run down the back straight to turn 14. A big stop. You get that one wrong, you know all about it. You can make it or break it under braking here at Shanghai International Circuit. Certainly that is a big issue at turn 14. Turn 11 too has often caught drivers out. Weather is quite fantastic, 29 degrees, a little bit high in the ambient temperature, 55% humidity. So that is certainly going to be a little bit more comfortable for the drivers. Very hot, of course, in South Korea. We're into the track temperatures of 55 degrees, which applies a fair amount of pressure to the hand-cooked control tyres. A little bit different circuit, of course, to Shanghai International Circuit. It's not, in fact, the Eurus safety car. It's the BMW. We won't talk too much about that, of course, as we get ready for a start. 50 minutes race distance. Drivers need to be across the lines on the circuit to make sure they are ready to go. Once the lights are out, we are underway with race number 9 of the 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Series. Will we get a start? And we're green. Can Marco Giltrap hold out Dan Wells on the run? Big dive to the inside by the Thai entry, the number 19 entry, up to position number 3. Got to be very careful through this long right-hander. Goes off camber about here. If you get too wide, as it looked like Brian Lee may well have done there, he could have lost a little bit of position. Then it gets awfully tight down through 3 and 4. 3 wide there. Great job by Brom Sombat, who made a solid start in the number 19 entry. Number of black cars, which makes it a little bit difficult sometimes to pick up the livery, but Dan Wells is doing what he can. He's applying pressure. He's done a lot of miles around this circuit, an awful lot more than has Marco Giltrap, but the young Kiwi is getting smarter with every run he does in this car, of course guided by Chris Vanderdrift. And he will be doing everything he can to hold out the now Hong Kong-based Englishman. But Wells is up to it. He knows what he needs to do, and he wants to get through as quickly as he possibly can on Giltrap to hand over a strong advantage to Oscar Lee. But the combination between the two, both Giltrap and Vanderdrift, has been absolutely impressive this year, and you can see it in this qualifying this morning with just a 1/10 of a second separating the two. Jackson Walls there in position number 3, Prom Sombat in position number 4, and it's been a great start to this particular race. We look forward to seeing how this one unfolds. Of course, this is the second last race in Asia, as we just try and get the live timing up running. That will be updated shortly. Sector 2, fastest Sector 2 for Marco Giltrap in the leading number 84 entry for Absolute Racing. Some good racing going on further back. Mark Darwin trying to hold out Brian Lee, but Brian Lee's got up the inside. Darwin tries to squeeze him as they get into the apex. They need to be very careful there. The number 4 entry, that was very good move by Wei Liu. He just allowed the drivers to get up the inside of him. Probably a little bit aggressive with the move, but that's what needs to happen. Oh, what's happened there on the exit? He's just got it all wrong. So he was gentlemanly to open the door and provide some space for the drivers that were battling, Mark Darwin and Brian Lee, but he's lost it on the exit of the final corner. There's some great battling going on here. That's the Harmony Racing entry. That is the young Lamborghini supported driver, part of the junior driver program, and good to see that for Harmony Racing that Sheng Wei Zhu is back in the car. Of course, Jackson Walls and Marco Giltrap, not surprisingly, part of the young driver program for Squadra Corsa. They will head off to Vallelunga in a battle to have some solid support from the factory for their 2024 campaigns. But out front, it is Marco Giltrap. He's out by 9/10 of a second now over Dan Wells. This is the battle further back. That's the number 91 entry of Eric Kay. And he is holding out. He's just running through the order here. That's the Triple Ace Racing entry, holding down position number 9. So this is a battle for positions 9, 10 and 11. Number 18 entry, Jilong Kang and Ray Liu. Of course, it's a slightly different livery to what we've seen in the past. Ray Liu suffering an issue at Fuji. The car was sidelined, unfortunately, as this battle goes on. Sideways, just tagged Eric Kay. Let's hope he gets through that one. That was a tough one. Coming into turn 12, almost 3 wide there. Eric just trying to get the thing going. He'd be frustrated with that, just burning a bit of excess fuel as he tries to get that started. Last car in line there was Dr. Ma, one of the Lamborghini Cup entries. We were talking about him earlier. Can Eric get it going? Will this force a safety car? That is frustrating for them. What a great start. He was right in that battle. That was in the tail end of the top 10. That is, well, that was the Miko Nassi entry. Well, Miko hasn't started that one. Make sure Miko's in the car this time round. That was the Racecraft entry. Battling a little bit further back. 33, of course, is Mark Darwin. So he's made up a little bit of ground in all of that. So the 33 at the moment, battling, well, the 28 and the 7. So that's the Vortex Racecraft entry. So that's Ben Rouget and Howard New. It's the Bite Bit entry, as it was last time round. A little bit changed during the course of the last couple of weeks. Mark Darwin's certainly doing a good job. He's been certainly one of the impressive members of this field during the course of the last couple of rounds. Tough start to the season, certainly at home in Malaysia at Sepang to kick off the season. They had a tough start of it, but have certainly come alive. Up front there is your race leader, Marco Giltrap, doing everything he needs to do. Dan Wells unable to make much of an impression. Of course, the third of the black cars in line is young Jackson Walls, the Australian. He's been doing some impressive things at home in Australia. Of course, had done a bit of mileage in Asia in the Formula 3 or the Formula Regional Championship. Done a lot of that too in the Middle East as the championship, thanks to COVID, got sent to the Middle East. So he has certainly applied that experience. There is Super Chai. That is further back in the field. This is battling for LC honours. That is the number 71 entry for Siamgas course. Now that is the recovering number 4 that we saw have that spin coming out of the final corner after being very gentlemanly, allowing Brian Lee and Mark Darwin to move through. A tough and frustrating run for them after qualifying in position 3 and now all the way back down in position number 13, having made up a little bit of ground. And the Lamborghini Cup battle, it is in fact Super Chai who's gone from rear of field, so he must have had a tough run through qualifying. And he is mounting somewhat of a recovery to get himself back towards the pointy end of the Lamborghini Cup Championship as we get into the second or the final 2 races as they are in the Asian region before heading off to Vallelunga. And the car immediately in front of him, that is that's the HZO Fortis entry. So I'm talking about Super Chai being in position 1. He's actually in position 2. So at the moment, the O brothers have that position nicely locked in place. And starting that car, in fact, was Harry O. So they had a tough start to the season, were sidelined during the opening race at Malaysia. Now that's the number 51 entry that I'm expecting is Johnson Huang. It is indeed, shares with Vincent Tai. And the 18 entry immediately behind them is Jilong Kang, who has started that car. So this is a good battle for position number 11 in the field. As we see the lead now out to 1.3 seconds. The Absolute Racing entry over the DW Evans GT entry. The Objective Racing entry is 2.8 seconds back from the lead. And you're back to the star performance by Absolute Racing entry of Prom Sombat, who's in position number 4. He's 5.6 seconds back from the race lead. And the SQDA Grit Motorsport entry, that is forming part of that very impressive battle over top honours in the AM class category. They are separated by 4 points coming into this round after some mixed performances for both teams over the last couple of rounds. And the advantage there is Brian Lee and John Kwan, who of course did very, very well at home in Injay last time out. Of course, they both had significant mileage up their sleeve at their home event. So we're looking at the 28 and the 7 continue to battle. There's Ben Rouge and Kahing Se. They are back in positions number 7 and 8. That's getting very racy for those honours. And Se is looking to do everything he can to try and grab that position. In fact, it is Rouge who's moved through. And behind them, it is Lee Chung, who's been doing such a great job with Jonathan Chicotto. So going back to the number 33 entry of Mark Darwin, who's 13 seconds back from the race lead. And this battle is 16 seconds back from the race lead, and these guys might find themselves with a bit of company from Lee Chung before too much longer. And then the Harmony Racing entry, Shenwei Zhu, is immediately behind. So one wonders whether or not the 28 just perhaps opened the door a little bit too much. He got good drive out of the corner, but certainly Lee Chung has managed to move his way forward. Of course, compulsory pit stop window opens between minute 25 and between minute 20 and minute 30. So once that window opens, every car must come down pit lane for a compulsory timed pit stop. Get that wrong, suffer a drive-through penalty, and that's one thing you really do not want to do. So these drivers just trying to get themselves organised as we go into the championship points as they stand coming into this round. Marco Giltrap, Chris Vanderdrift in the pro class were completely untouchable. They've wrapped up the championship with 4 races left to go. At the close of this weekend, there'll be 2 races left. Of course, those will come at Vallelunga in November. Shenwei Zhu, who's missed a couple of races this year, is second in that classification on 56 points to Giltrap and Vanderdrift on 121. So it's a significant advantage they had. Hence, they have wrapped up the championship with 4 races left to run. Oscar Lee and Dan Wells hold the lead in the Pro-Am entry on 105 points. Wei Liang Yi and Miko Nassi, who aren't here this weekend, they were in position number 2. The advantage there to Lee and Wells, 105 to 89. But Tony Walls and Jackson Walls, who missed last round due to a clash for Jackson Walls. Tony Walls had a late business commitment and had to pull out. He was due to have a second driver with him at Injay, but unfortunately missed the round on 73 points. So they're 22 points back, 15 for the win. Just had a bit of debris on the circuit there. Let's hope there's not been any contact with these cars. Of course, with a modern GT car, of which these are, you've got an awful lot of aero that you need to be careful of. Dive planes and wing end plates and flat floors and rear aero that you need to be very careful of. Just trying to keep tabs on what's going on with the races around that. Now that's further back down the field. There's the number 37 entry. That, of course, is Kumar Prabhakaran, who's been so competitive in the Lamborghini Cup. He's being monstered at the moment by Dr. Ma, the driver from Hong Kong. Had been sharing with Keith Vong this year. Of course, they are sharing the Cam Lung Racing, or had been sharing the Cam Lung Racing entry. And Dr. Ma, who's not a young man, but very, very competitive. And he and Kumar both come to the sport later in life. And Lamborghini Cup's about not actually classifying drivers as a gold, silver or bronze, one thing that we are used to. Oh, there's a spin by Johnson Huang. Trying to work out where that is. That might be on the run down to come out of turn 4, possibly. We'll see if we can't get a wider shot of that at some point and work out what's happened to Johnson Huang in the BC Racing entry. He Oh, yeah, just a bit of excess fuel as he tries to restart the car. Of course, driving with Vincent Ty, they've been a good combination this year. And Johnson's son has been racing too in Super Trofeo Asia this year. Not racing this weekend, but certainly that will set Johnson back. He's now well and truly rear of field as this battle between Kumar Prabhakaran, we're talking about, and Dr. Ma rages on. So there have been battles up and down through the field. We're talking about Kumar and Superchai. Superchai coming into this round is back on top of the leaderboard for Lamborghini Cup. He is, I think, still in position number 2. No, he's now leading. He's taken that position over Harry-O. No, he hasn't. Just well, there it is on screen. That is Superchai. But that is, I think, the number 7 entry, perhaps, behind Superchai. Just double check that. I don't know what he'd be doing down there. But anyway, getting back to where we are, that may have been a position change. Has there been a car change in that and a position change? No, in fact, well, Harry-O has got the hang of this so nicely that he's now out by 10 seconds over Superchai, who did start rear of field, to be perfectly fair. So that would extend Superchai's advantage as we go back to the lead battle. Marco Giltrap continuing to lead over Dan Wells and Jackson Walls. Kumar Prabhakaran coming into this round was 8 points back from the championship points lead in Lamborghini Cup after a DNF in the opening race at Injay, and Dr. Ma in position number 3 on 78 points. So 15 for the win, 1 for pole position. That could mix things up a little bit there. So let's just see how that one plays out. But certainly for the outright battle, these are your 2 championship points leaders. One of them's a championship winner. That's the car that's leading the race as Brian Lee flashes the lights to try and get under the skin of his Absolute Racing teammate and rival for the AM Championship from Sombat. I will hand over to John Quan and from Sombat's team Matt Aniwat at the compulsory pit stop window. This, of course, is a battle for the AM category. They are currently positions number 1 and 2 in AM. And Mark Darwin is further back. He's going to wear out the headlights on that Evo 2 if he keeps flashing them like that. I don't think it's having much impact, but certainly you've got to try every tool you have access to, although I do know that the race directors have warned drivers about how many times they need to be flashing lights, and if you get too carried away, you may just get a wrap across the knuckles. So Brian Lee will be aware of that. Very clever operator. He and John Quan have been a fantastic addition to the field this year. Had not ventured outside their home country of South Korea. Had done a lot of, well, I guess a little bit of sports car, but certainly a lot of production car style racing in their home country. And turned up at Sepang in Malaysia. We were thwarted for a start after a sabbatical of 4 years. Our return was thwarted by a thunderous storm on the grid just as the green flag was about to be shown for the race start. We lost 50 minutes. The circuit was flooded, and certainly drivers the calibre of Chris Vanderdrift elected, well, we'll go out and slick tyres, thank you very much, for the race start. Track was obviously declared wet. Drivers had the option for slicks or wets. What blew us all away, of course, the SQDA Grit Motorsport entry went out on slick tyres. A little bit sketchy to start the race, but the one thing that Chris Vanderdrift's experience told him, as, of course, running for Absolute, arguably the most experienced motorsport team in the Asian region, was that Sepang Circuit drives very, very quickly. If you came into pit lane to make a compulsory stop, you were to serve, I think it was a 50-second additional time penalty for a tyre change. So they knew that if they had to make the decision during the race as the track was due to dry, they were in trouble. So some of the lesser experienced, certainly the AM class entries, of which, of course, the second car on screen here, the SQDA Grit Motorsport entry of John Quan and Brian Lee is, most of them elected to go out on wet tyres on a wet circuit. Well, not the South Koreans, and they wound up on the podium for their trouble, thank you very much. And that absolutely blew themselves and everybody else away. And they'd been a great addition in the championship since that time. So great to see them right there in that battle. And they certainly are in the championship points hunt. So that battle over position number 4 in this race is critical in that championship fight. We go back to, well, the number 28 entry, but were a little bit further back. That is the 7 leading the 10, leading the 28, as we see Johnson Huang working his way back through after that spin. He's monstering the rear of the Iron Lynx entry of Kumar Prabhakaran, and you could see Superchai, we were talking about, who leads the Lamborghini Cup points, just in front of them, that bright orange entry. The number 71 Samgas course entry, holding down position number 15. The 88 car is immediately ahead of them. That is Gabriele Moroni, who is also a Lamborghini Cup entry. That was the one that threw me, because it's not a livery I've seen so far this year. Of course, this is his, return to Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, but also his maiden run in the 2023 season. So good battles up and down through the field. Of course, you've got the Pro Series entries, you've got the Pro-Ams. Pro drivers, of course, with the amateur drivers. You've got the AM entry and you've got the LC Cup, or the Lamborghini Cup, as it is, classifications. So 4 races within a race across 12 races across the course of the year, 50 minutes apiece, and it has provided some very entertaining action. It's been very tidy too, and it's been interesting going to the Ben Motorsport Park in South Australia, a very different circuit to this F1 circuit here in Shanghai, and the F1 circuit, of course, at Sepang in Malaysia. Not as forgiving, not as much runoff, a lot of grass in the runoff at the Ben Motorsport Park. So that was a circuit that very few of these drivers had any indication of. Of course, a lot of them do sim driving to prepare themselves for a new circuit, but very, very careful with the way they competed. Very few cars off the circuit and very competitive lap times when you had drivers like Sam Brabham and Dean Canto sharing an entry. 2 drivers with immense experience of racing. Of course, Sam Brabham, the grandson of 3-time Formula 1 world champion Jack Brabham, Sir Jack Brabham, and Dean Canto, a former supercar driver. They had a lot of experience, and yet the guys that are the series regulars in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, as this great battle continues to go on. That is, of course, the AM class entry of Johnson Huang for BC Racing, trying to get himself back around Kumar Prabhakaran, who also does double duty with Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe. Finds that Asia's a little bit easier because there's not quite as many entries as there are in Europe, and he gets caught up in various battles. Of course, races for the Iron Lynx team over there. Marquino down in pit lane, steering the ship for Iron Lynx. Of course, a very successful team all over the world. We're back to the front of the field, and there is your race leader. Dan Wells has not given up by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he just about has to resign himself to the fact that the young Kiwi, well, he has the pace. Jackson Walls, another of the young drivers being supported by the junior program for Lamborghini Super Trofeo. He is a little bit further back down the order, 6 seconds back now from Giltrap, as we get very, very close to the pit window opening. In fact, I've just checked the clock. It's gone under 30 minutes, so it is open. I think Marco Giltrap may well stay in the car. Let's see, because his pace is only 1/10 of a second different to Chris Vanderdrift. He knows, as do we all, that Vanderdrift is more than capable of punching out very quick laps, but perhaps for experience, the Absolute Racing team may well leave Marco Giltrap in the car. Let's see as he comes up to what would be pit lane entry. I don't know whether he's actually nipped in. Let's have a look at the exit. No, he's continued on. Well, that's no real surprise given the pace that Giltrap is showing, and the perfect tonic for experience is seat time. So perhaps Chris Vanderdrift has thought, well, I'm comfortable enough. We know what I can punch out, so let's just pass it on to the young guy to get some serious miles under his belt, because their goal, as they rightly stated last time out at Injay, is actually the world final. They've wrapped up the Pro Series class already for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. We go to the world final. That is the coveted battle between Europe, between North America and Asia. And there's been some very strong performances from the Asian drivers in the past. Of course, Dan Wells and Oscar Lee have been part of that equation in past seasons, and I'm sure Jackson Walls and Tony Walls will like nothing more than to get over to the hallowed turf of, certainly for the Tifosi and the Italian fans, and it's an Italian mark, going to Vallelunga in Italy for the season final in the middle of November. But up front, the main thing now is for Marco Giltrap to continue on with his performance. We talk about a Pro-Am entry. The second entry in this field is just that. The AM driver, Oscar Lee, again, has done some miles over in Europe. very well guided by the driver coach that drives alongside him, Dan Wells. And Jackson Evans running the team, DW Evans GT as it is now. Evans has got a lot of experience in open wheel competition. He will be instrumental in helping the performance of this car and, of course, getting Oscar Lee up to speed. But Oscar Lee being the AM entry will see Dan Wells run very late into this pit window before he hits pit lane, and perhaps quite likely they will leave Marco Giltrap in to do the same thing. So somebody's missing from that equation, and it's Kumar Prabhakaran. If I look at, well, he's hit pit lane, that's why. He's just being highlighted as the outlap. Like Dr. Ma, he is racing on his own, so he will pit when he needs to, when he's comfortable to, provided, of course, they pit inside that 10-minute pit window. There's no tyre change, there's no refuelling, of course. That's why it's a 50-minute race. That's more than comfortable for a full tank of race fuel. And I think you'll see the modern GT cars run as far as hour 10, hour 15 these days, but certainly 50 minutes. There is Marco Giltrap. The race leader is in pit lane for his compulsory stop. Long pit lane here at Shanghai International Circuit. They'll lose significant time. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they do lose a lap. I don't expect they will. It's over a 2-minute lap here at Shanghai International Circuit, 5.4 kilometres. There is Fear the Drift, Chris van der Drift jumping in. Marco Giltrap is not a short man. And he exits the car. Absolute Racing team watching on. Only a certain number of team members allowed over the line. Marco's just explaining how things have gone and what they need to be doing. Looks like John Quan perhaps in the background, waiting for Brian Lee to make his compulsory stop. Could have been Annie Watt, of course, the tyre driver, waiting for Prom Sombat to hit pit lane. The 88 entry has just rejoined the field. That's another of the single driver entries. What's interesting is the older drivers tend to compete in Lamborghini Cup. Again, we're talking about that's essentially set up for drivers who've come into the sport later in their careers. They're not really a gold, a silver or a bronze. That's not what they're about. They're about enjoying themselves, enjoying their racing and competing against like-minded people. As Chris van der Drift now leaves pit lane and gets back up to speed in that mighty V10 powered, naturally aspirated Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2 Super Trofeo. And he will be very keen to do what he can to get up to pace very, very quickly as Dan Wells continues to punch around at the front of the field. 2:08.6 last time round for Dan Wells. 2:09.5 for Jackson Walls. I'm a little surprised he's perhaps not a little bit quicker. We go back to the number 84 entry. 2:14, of course, that doesn't matter. 2:06.9 their fastest lap, and fastest lap of the race at the moment. Another Falcon fastest lap award coming their way. There is, I'm assuming Eric Kay hasn't hit pit lane yet. Let's just see where the Triple Ace Racing entry is in the field. I had that spin earlier. Oh, there's a bit of contact. I think it's a bit unfair to highlight as being a spin. As Jackson Walls now comes in 24 minutes just over on the clock to hand over to his father. Tony Walls, an experienced campaigner in Australia, although he's been out of the seat for a few years. Of course, a lot of people can say that as a result of the global pandemic. It took him a little while just to dial himself into the Lamborghini. He's run a variety of different GT cars, an Australian GT and GT World Challenge Australia, etc., over a number of years. And the chance to race with his son in one-make competition in a championship just like this that takes drivers all over the world, some of the best circuits in the world. We've certainly done a lot of travelling this year, and it's not over. Vallelunga, of course, will close out the 2023 season. But Tony Walls was mad keen to jump in alongside Jackson, who is beginning his career. Now, here's the battle for Lamborghini Cup. There is Super Chai is heading out. There is Dr. Ma in the blue entry. Johnson Huang now has handed over to Vincent Tai, who is in the middle of that mix after that spin by Huang a little bit earlier in the race. He's had to work himself back through the field. Now, it gets a little bit confusing during this particular pit window because various teams pit at different times. Some drivers are strong on the outlap, some drivers are not so strong on the outlap. So that certainly mixes up the results. Not till we get into the last 15 to 18 minutes of this race, we really see what the order is going to be like and where some of the faster drivers now. Typically, that was a long sentence, sorry. Typically, we will see the pro drivers start in the first race, so they qualify first, start first. But in this competition, you can mix it up. So Dan Wells has started this one. Chris Vanderdrift, if you talk about the pros, I mean, I'm sidelining Marco Giltrap just slightly because he was the lesser experienced of the two drivers coming into this, of course classified of pro driver as well. He's in his formative years. Vanderdrift, well, he's not in his shady years yet. He's still got a lot of career left in him. He's still winning races, so there's a lot more left in Chris Vanderdrift. Mark my words, but certainly Marco Giltrap is the lesser experienced of the two drivers, so choosing which driver does which session, it's a little bit of a lottery, so that mixes things up. And Jackson Walls, another who chose to qualify in this session, whereas you see that Chris Vanderdrift elected to qualify in the second session with 1 minute 30 to go with the pit window open. This will see the remainder of the cars in. So there is the SQDA Grit Motorsport entry. I reckon he almost had an ejector seat in there, Brian Lee, as he just leapt out of the car. He almost ran out into the middle of the fast lane. He got out so quickly. John Kwan about to jump in. There is the number 5 entry, and that will be Haziko having taken over from his brother Harry, who's done such a brilliant job. Big dramas for them at their home race at Sepang. Coming out of turn 4, wet grass. Of course, we're talking about the torrential rain just before the start of the race. Just lost the tail of the car, speared them across the track into the Armco, and they had to go into a backup car. Didn't quite work out for them, but the HZO Fortis team have got themselves organised. The car's been fantastic ever since, and they've had some solid results. And I tell you what, when you want to see a podium in motorsport, I reckon the Lamborghini Cup podium in Asia is amongst the best. You've never seen a happier bunch of guys. And what's beautiful about these 4 different categories is just about everyone during the course of the year has had a chance to be on the podium. Some of those teams too, of course, sharing the top step. Although there's not much sharing between the Dan Wells Oscar Lee entry, who's now leading. So Oscar Lee's got out in front of Chris Vanderdrift. So this is for the lead of the race. I think we know how this one's going to work out, as does Oscar Lee. And Vanderdrift's wise enough to bide his time, I was about to say, as he's just gone around the outside of him down at turn 6, taken the lead, and he will now disappear off into the distance. So great job by the DW Evans GT team to get them out ahead of the Vanderdrift-Giltrap combination. Of course, there is a minimum pit stop time, and they need to make sure they do not leave pit lane before they have served that minimum time. Some drivers we saw at South Korea were in the tenths of seconds within missing that time limit, and that earned them an advantage. But others who, of course, got it just slightly wrong, and it could have been 2 or 3 tenths, found themselves facing the wrath of the stewards and a drive-through penalty. And that certainly did darken their day. There's Oscar Lee, who's continuing to learn, sits now in position number 2. Will come under fire from Aniwat, I should imagine, very quickly. And John Kwan, let's see how he goes. Now, this is further back down the order. That's the number 7 Vortex Orion. No, sorry, this is the 28. I was getting that mixed up. I apologise. The 28 entry earlier in the year was an all-black entry. And the 7 was the 17, I think, at one stage. So the liveries are just a little bit different. So I'm just getting my head around that. So I apologise for making that error again. But the 28 entry now has David Lau behind the wheel. Another driver who's had a mixed year. Big contact with the barriers at the Ben Motorsport Park at one stage. And that sidelined them, which was a little frustrating. Cost them a little bit of time. And they did miss rounds as a result of that, or races as a result of that, but looking to work themselves forward in this one, and they're sitting in position 11 at the moment. That is Vincent Tai battling with Super Chai, 2 different classes. The orange Lambo is in Lamborghini Cup, battling the blue car behind it. And the AM BC Racing entry of Johnson 1 and Vincent Tai just goes around the outside, takes that position, closes the door on the exit. But Super Chai also knows he's not racing him, but what he does also know is Dr. Ma, who is turning in some very, very impressive laps for a driver very late in his career that is driving on his own, had been sharing with Keith Bong, Macanese driver, now based in Adelaide in South Australia. He's had to pull out for the last few rounds, but the pair of them had been on the top step of the podium. Fuji in Japan, and you've never seen broader smiles. So shout out to Keith. Of course, he will be watching, and hope he's feeling better. Illness has sidelined him for the short term. We hope to see him back later in the season. Certainly, he will be doing his best to be back in the field in 2024 as the championship recovers like the rest of the world from the global pandemic. But up front, Chris van der Drift doing what Chris van der Drift does. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Doing what Chris van der Drift does. I've muffed it again. Wins races. He continues to win races in various different marks, but here's this move. Dr. Ma down the inside of Superchai. Can he pull it off? No, he can't. A little bit deceptive with the long lens there as to whether or not he was alongside or still behind. But those drivers are going to find themselves being lapped very, very shortly by CVD. I don't think they need to fear the drift because Chris will give them racing room. He's had enough experience racing in this style of competition. You can be a pro driver, but you've got to understand there's drivers of different calibers and experience in the field. So one of the highlights of this season has been very much the lack of contact and drama as these drivers have respected, as we were talking earlier about circuits like the Ben Motorsport Park. And as it turned out, Chris van der Drift, despite his immense experience in the Asian region, had never been to NJ Speedium before. So again, like the Ben Motorsport Park, a lot of drivers who went to South Korea hadn't experienced NJ Speedium before. Traditionally, we'd gone to Yongnam and Korea International Circuit in the southern part of South Korea. In this instance, we're at NJ. We were actually scheduled for Everland Speedway just outside of Seoul. But as it turned out, we had to make a late change. Went to NJ, and that was an exciting venue to go to, just south of the North Korean border, as it turns out, in the top northeast corner of South Korea, about 2.5 hours outside of Seoul. As this battle goes on, he's been completely revitalised. We would have thought that certainly in the immense heat, we had 37-degree ambient temperatures at one stage in South Korea, that Dr. Ma had struggled a little bit in the heat racing on his own after Keith had to sideline himself. And I'm sure he has seen Chris van der Drift, and certainly van der Drift knows that you need to make decisive passes in these modern GT cars. And overtaking was a little bit more challenging at NJ because of the lack of long straights. No shortage of those here at Shanghai International Circuit. And Chris van der Drift makes short work of the Lamborghini Cup competitors as Dr. Ma does his level best to try and get past Superchai. So we talk about the four categories. In the pro class, of course, it's Chris van der Drift and Marco Giltrap leading the field. In the Pro-Am category, it is second placed Oscar Lee, second place outright, leading Pro-Am from the TRT racing entry. Now, you could be under a little bit of fire there because that now has the young Venezuelan driver Jonathan Chicotto behind the wheel, and he's a race winner, so he could well storm his way back through the field. They are currently sitting 28 seconds back from the race lead. Well, Oscar Lee is impressive at the moment, 23 seconds. TRT racing entry up to position 4. And John Quan back to position 5 as it looks like Tony Walls has had contact with someone. I would suggest there has. Oh, and it's been the number 33 entry, the Iron Lynx entry that was started so strongly. So that's two badly damaged cars. That's going to be the end of the Objective Racing entry of Tony Walls. And the 33 had just been taken over by Jason Lowe. He's had a fairly mixed year so far this year, but showed a strong performance in South Korea, but both cars limping back to pit lane. So that's not what we want to see. I'm sure the teams will work as hard as they can to get both cars back. Let's just take a look and see what's happened in the replay. So Jason Lowe's dive down the inside. Yeah, we were just talking about that. Vision is very difficult, and that was the kicker. Unfortunately, contact as Tony Walls rolled backwards, and neither driver will be happy with that. But that was probably a little bit late, perhaps, for Jason Lowe to make that big dive. Certainly, Tony Walls would have turned into the corner thinking, well, I'm here at the apex. It's my corner. I'm not expecting anybody to dive bomb me here. And Jason may have just timed that a little bit too wrong. And making contact like that, the right rear of the car, you can see the wheel was pointing well outside of front. As this battle goes, well, it's not a battle, I'm sorry. This is Vincent Tighe being lapped by race leader Chris Vanderdrift. Now just check Chris Vanderdrift's lap time as he crosses the line. It was a 2:10 last time in traffic this time too, of course. And it looks like it is a 2:10 again. So his lead out now to about 7 seconds over Oscar Lee. A big one to keep a close eye on. He's now in position number 3. So there's been some more forward movement there. No, sorry. There's 2 yellow, red and black entries. The one that's caught me, of course, is the number 19 entry. They've been doing a fantastic job all season since the opening round in Malaysia. And Aniwat and Promsombat in the star performance by absolute number 19 entry. The first, if you like, of the 2 yellow, red and black entries. The other one being the TRT Racing number 10 entry. The 2 Thai drivers have been fantastic all year. And to be leading coming into this round in the AM classification is full justification for the efforts that they have been putting on. Now, they have been battling that blue and purple entry from SQDA Grip Motorsport. John Kwan now behind the wheel, having taken over from Brian Lee. They're separated by just over a second, so that battle is still to go. Oh, this is getting a little ugly. That is Kumar Prabhakaran. In the middle of that is Jonathan Chicotto, who is just giving him a little bit of space, a little bit of respect for the lesser experienced drivers. Chicotto knows he's got the pace to potentially monster the 2 drivers in front of him. They're both AM entries. He's a pro driver. He's done a lot of miles in these cars. And that would be David Chen in the Harmony Racing entry, the team boss. What's interesting is David Chen holds the GT3 lap record here at Shanghai International Circuit. Would expect that to change when GT World Challenge Asia returns before too much longer. But that lap time around this circuit is a 2:05.45. When you compare that to the current Super Trofeo Asia lap record of a 2:06.33 by Mikko Escalenen, that's only 9/10 of a second. That's down to the fact that these cars with their less aero on these long straights can perform over a lap a lot better in outright speed. So the GT3 cars, of course, as that move down the inside, Dr. Ma, can he close the door on Superchai? Superchai's smart enough to understand. It looks like a little bit of debris down there, but that may have been from the Jackson Walls contact that he had with the number 33 entry of Jason Lowe. So let's hope it wasn't these 2 guys, but Superchai knows that he's really not in a battle here with Dr. Ma over position, doesn't need to do anything risky. So he protected as much as he needed to, but certainly as this battle for what will be position number 3 in the field continues on, Superchai knows that he's leading the championship, doesn't need to do anything silly. At the moment, Prabhakaran is a little bit further down the order. So in the Lamborghini Cup classification, it's the HZO Fortis Racing team heading for what could be their first win in the season, race number 9, as there is Chicotto down the inside of Aniwat, and he will take that position away. The 2 yellow, red and black cars, as David Chen does the same. Of course, very experienced campaigner. He's classified in AM, but we've seen him in other one-make competition and certainly in GT World Challenge Asia. He's done a little bit of work overseas too, and overseas I'm talking outside of Asia. Perhaps that's an Australian thing, everything's overseas, but outside of Asia, David Chen's been very, very impressive. We're just talking about the fact that he holds the outright lap record here for a GT3 competition for Shanghai International Circuit, but is of course classified an amateur driver. There's Dr. Ma, he's having a look now at Gabriel Moroni. He's gone down the inside and taken him there too. He's had a complete lease of life. Up the inside, can he hold the position? Around the outside in the parabolica, I don't think Moroni's going to lose too much, but he may do. Does he get better drive out of the corner? And that is the key. It's what you can come out of the corner carrying pace-wise. And Dr. Ma might have just lost a little bit, but he seems to have the legs on Moroni there. So that, look at position. Car number 88, that's Gabriel Moroni. So he was holding down position number 2. So Dr. Ma moves up to position 2 in Lamborghini Cup. going to put my teeth back in because the race for outright is still well and truly on. Of course, Chris Vanderdrift's leading comfortably, but here is Jonathan Cecotto working his way through, and he's got through up into position number 3. Now, see as they cross the line just how much more time he needs to make up on Oscar Lee. It's about 13 seconds. So the lead out now to nearly 9 seconds for Chris Vanderdrift. Oscar Lee holding down position number 2, 9 seconds further back from the race leader. And then the TRT entry. I seem to have a bit of an issue here on my timing monitor. It's showing me a completely different number. It's in position number 3, but what I'm seeing on screen says position 5. Those of you who have been following the season this year, we've had a couple of complications with the timing, but that may just be what I am seeing here, because certainly the performance of Jonathan Cecotto well and truly has him in position number 3, and it's just how close he can get to Oscar Lee. There's 6 minutes rather left in this race. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to be able to put the performance in. He's about 3 seconds a lap faster. And the young Venezuelan driver, who was the standout at the Bend Motorsport Park, one slight error of judgment on a race start, which saw a post-race penalty delivered to the Venezuelan driver who crossed the line first, was given the post-race penalty. We were under safety car, so the entire field was grouped up. He went from the front to towards the back of the field, and that was completely unfortunate because he had been a standout from his first lap at the Bend Motorsport Park, despite having never seen it before. So a lot of talent from this young man. And with Lee Chung alongside, they've been a very formidable combination, but because they'd missed events, that put Cecotto at the Bend into the pro category. He raced alone. And Lee Chung, who's his teammate in the Pro-Am classification, of course, wasn't able to get to South Australia, and that unfortunately cut them out. Now, I'm talking about how good Jonathan Cecotto is. How about the Harmony Racing entry? The number 16 entry on screen, he's not really losing anything much at all. Very, very impressive drive by David Chen to not lose sight of one of the star young performers in the Squadra Corsa drivers list, and that, of course, is Cecotto. So that is interesting. Now, here's the battle for the AM Class Honours. This is important for John Quan. He's doing absolutely everything he can to try and stick with Anawatt, and if he can, before the end of this race, get in front, because at the moment, these guys are 1-2 in these particular positions, not only in this race for the AM classification, but also in the championship. There is Gabriele Moroni, number 88 entry. Well, he's got back around Dr. Ma. So there's been a change there. He's taken back position number 2. Not sure Dr. Ma will be all that impressed about that. He'll be quite happy to try and get that position back. And all the while, the points leader, Super Chai, that bright orange entry for the Siam Gas course, is in a watching brief. Maybe he'll pick up some pieces if anything goes wrong. But we were talking about the fact that these drivers have been very cautious with contact. When they've made a move, traditionally they've made it decisive, and there hasn't been contact. They've been very gentlemanly. I would say that there is very much a gentleman races aspect to Super Trofeo Asia this year. There've been, of course, a couple of moments. It is racing. At the end of the day, things happen. But for the most part of the season, it's been very, very tidy. There's John Quan. What can he do? The SQDA Grit Motorsport entry by Absolute. Both these teams are run by Absolute, as in fact is the race leader, the Giltrap Vanderdrift entry. Now out by, well, my timing monitor is not refreshing at all. I apologise for that. We can see what we can see on screen at the moment, and it is very, very impressive by these two AM classified drivers battling over position number 4 and 5 in this race. 1 and 2 for the AM classification as the Pro-Am battle further forward. Looks like it might be coming well and truly down to the wire, as it looks like Cecotto has managed to haul in Oscar Lee to be right over the back of the DW Evans GT entry. It'd be nice to see a little bit further forward in the field. Chris Vanderdrift, well, he's gone. Thanks very much. We'll take another victory. We'll chalk another one up for the season. And that goes with a number of back-to-backs over the course of this year. They've only had one slight hiccup during the season. That came at the Bend Motorsport Park. Contact involved in that one. That was just unfortunate. And outside of that, they've been the standout performers at the front of the field in the outright classification this season. Just under 3 minutes left to go in the 9th race of the 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia season. We are back tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. local time in Shanghai, for what will be the last race on Asian soil for the 2023 season. Then off in mid-November to Vallelunga in Italy for the last 2 races of Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, preceding the World Finals, where North America, Europe and Asia come together to battle over 2 races for the title of the #1 in the world. And that, of course, will be hotly contested by all the teams from all over the world, but certainly the Asian drivers are very much looking forward to that. And then the crowning of the champions in Italy, the home of Lamborghini. There is that beautiful star performance by Absolute Racing entry, head of the SQDA Grip Motorsport. Absolute prepared entry. Mata and Fabian Fior have a base here at Shanghai International Circuit. Of course, they started at Zhuhai International Circuit. Of course, from Hong Kong. Then branched out to have bases at Sepang in Malaysia. They've got bases, of course, in different parts of the globe. Spent some time in the US, of course, both European. Mata's German, Fabian Fior's French. We've had a lot of success in Asia, in open wheelers. And, oh, what do we got here? Is it a move? No, that is Enrique being passed by David Chen. But it's in front of that we'd like to see with a minute to go. We might get to that as we cross the lines. Gabriel Moroni's coming under fire again from Dr. Ma. Very, very impressive to see him go the full 50 minutes again and be racing door to door and nose to tail with all the drivers in his category. Dr. Ma has not given up. He definitely deserves a cheer at the end of this one. A very impressive effort. The way he's going at the moment, he will be on the podium as we get into the final seconds of this 9th race of the season. Our return to competition after the impact of COVID for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia this year, but our return, of course, to Shanghai International Circuit. A circuit that these guys have done a lot of miles on over the years. Certainly most of this field have experienced Shanghai International Circuit in the past. It's one of those circuits you can certainly do plenty of miles on a simulator. Nothing beats seat time. Bums in seats, cars on track. And, that's what those drivers will be looking forward to. Clock's gone down to 0. It's 50 minutes plus a lap. So let's see whether or not we get the checkered flag this time round for Chris van der Drift. We must be very, very close. There he is, coming through the parabolica for what I expect may well be the final time. Chris van der Drift chalks up another one. This will be race win number 8 of 9 in the pro category. It's race win number 7 of 9 for the season outright. Very experienced campaigner, hell of a nice bloke. Since he was a kid in go-karts, racing at CIK level in Australia. Of course, done a lot of national level stuff in Australia. Comes through the final corner, turn number 16. Comes to the line. Chris van der Drift, Marco Giltrap for Absolute Racing. Giltrap Group and Lamborghini Auckland take another victory and a comfortable win. This is what's going to be interesting. What happens behind? That is the HZO Fortis team taking victory and their first victory. Another fantastic result for them in Lamborghini Cup. What happens behind? That is, well, we're not going to see it. This is unfortunately, we'll have to wait for the timing monitor just to see whether or not we have got, well, he has, Chicotto's come through. There it is, left of screen. I'm watching the timing monitor, which is now refreshed. 26 seconds back from the leader, but Chicotto crosses the line in position 2 alongside Li Chung, and here's this great battle for AM-Class honours, and anyone will take it over John Kwon. But you can't get much closer than that. They're 1-2 in AM category this season, and they're 1-2 in the race. And look at Dr. Ma. He's prevailed. He's come all the way through, and he'll take position number 2, I fully expect. Let's just check there for Kamlung Racing. And he does, in fact, take it. Getting overly excited here for Lamborghini Cup. Dr. Ma, what a brilliant drive. He got Gabriele Moroni on that last lap. But you can't deny the winners of this race. Chris van der Drift, Marco Giltrap, what a fantastic result for them. fantastic result. I mean, I'm using the word fantastic perhaps a little bit too much, but it really has been a great season this year. I've loved calling every minute of it, and the races up and down through the field. Okay, you can't have a full field of outright professionals driving in this championship. That's not what it's about. This is a one-make category designed for drivers who are fanatical about the cars. Kumar Prabhakaran loved the Lamborghini, hasn't driven anything else, has been racing for 5 years. He's doing double duty this year with Europe and with Asia, loves to be behind the wheel of the car. He's not interested in racing for outright wins. He knows he's not going to be an outright contender, doesn't want to race with a pro driver. His choice, as many of the Lamborghini Cup drivers have decided to do. All those options are open. So full pro entries all the way down to drivers who have found the sport later in life. Brilliant. And the racing through the field has been fantastic. And you will see the podiums as we get through to them very shortly. Stay with us. I'm going to sign off very soon, unfortunately. But stay with us for the podium presentations. They are amongst the best you will see anywhere in the world. These guys are absolutely chuffed and overjoyed, not just to be competing, but to take home a trophy. It is the highlight of many of their lives, and they enjoy competing around this series. And we look forward to going into race 2 tomorrow, which will be race 10 of our return to competition for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. So please join us from 11:30 a.m. That's race start. We will go into a little bit of update as to what transpired in this one, as there will be some great celebration from, well, they're the champions already for 2023. Vanderdrift, the 2019 Pro Class champion as well. Great return to form. Marco Giltrap opens the door, gets his mentor out. And what a good result for them. Jonathan Chicotto, lights flashing. He takes position number 2. This combination, Li Chung and Chicotto have been very good this year, but you can't deny just how good Vanderdrift and Giltrap have been. And a big shout out to Marco Giltrap. He was very cautious with his start in the championship, was not admitting anything too big, very much in his formative years as a driver, but has progressed to the point where we saw in qualifying earlier today, just a 1/10 of a second between the two drivers in each of their sessions. That's how good he has become. So keep a close eye on Marco Giltrap, because he is a driver that will certainly make some big impact in this part of the world, and certainly on the world motorsport. There's a driver with some character, and of course is the driver coach for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, Andre Couto, former Macau Grand Prix winner in Formula 3, if you don't mind. The names of people that have won the Macau Grand Prix in Formula 3 are amongst the best in world motorsport. So it just shows you the calibre of people involved in this championship. Fantastic job by Top Speed, certainly by Squadra Corsa in Asia, led by John Flynn and his team. Have done a brilliant job putting this back together, and a lot of very, very happy people. So I will leave you with, there they are, Jonathan Chicotto. I'll leave you with the stars of the show, and there are a lot of them, 19 in this field, as we go through to the presentation for race 9 of the 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Series. And make sure you join us for race 10, the last one on Asian soil for this season, at 11:30 tomorrow morning.
I was screaming in racing control. I don't know about that, but certainly the best I've seen. Not the other way around. Inspired me like,
Giving the trophy and I took a photo to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, now is the podium ceremony for race 1 of 2023 Lamborghini Chiron, round 5 at Shanghai. Firstly, let's invite the overall top 3 winners onto the podium. Your winner of the race, car number 84 from Absolute Racing, Marco Giltrap, Chris Wonderdrift. Second place from TRT Racing, car number 10, Jonathan Checotto and Li Qiang. Third place, car number 21 from DW Evans GT, Oscar Lee Dan Rose. And now it's my honor to invite Mr. Maurizio Reggiani, Vice President of Motorsport Automobili Lamborghini, to present the trophy to the winners. And we are also announce the Hankook Fastest Lap Award. It goes to car number 84, Marco Giltrap. And now let's have group photo for everybody. It is your champagne time. And now we're having the podium ceremony for Pro M class. Your winner, Pro M class, car number 10 from TRT Racing. Again, Jonathan Li Qiang. Oscar Lee and Danvers. Third place, car number 28 from D1 Racing Team, Smart Chi and David Law. And now it's my honor to invite Ms. Audrey Zhang, Marketing Director of Roger Dubuis China, to present the trophy to the winners. And now it's photo time. And here comes the champagne time. And now we're having the podium ceremony for your winner of AM class, car number 19 from Star Performance by Absolute, Mike and you. Second place, car number 63 from SQTA Greek Motorsport, Burnley and John Gar. Third place, car number 18 from TRT Racing, Kang Zhilong and Rui Lu. And now it's my honor to invite Mr. Francesco Scardoni, Region Director, Automobili Lamborghini Asia Pacific, to present the trophies. Let's have group photo. Congratulations. And now for AM class, it is champagne time. And now it's the podium ceremony for race 1 of 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, round 5 at Shanghai for Lamborghini Cup. Let's invite the winners onto the podium. First place, car number 5 from HZO 40s Racing Team, Haril O. Hazik O. Second place, car number 83 from Kamlang Racing, Dr. Ma. Third place, car number 88 from Orange Endurance, Gabriel Murani. And now it's my honor to invite Mr. Konstantin Serchev, Managing Director of Automobili Lamborghini Chinese Mainland, Hong Kong and Macau, to present the trophy to the winners. And now it's photo time for Lamborghini Cup. Well done. And now you can have your champagne time.